Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Hello and welcome again to Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Thanks for watching, and thanks to our producer, Jeff Durall. We're at McCartney Hall on the campus of Fort Hays State University, upstairs in the 200 series at McCartney, visiting with the new director of Management Development Center at Fort Hays State, a name you know, Sabrina William, who is the former executive director of the Downtown Hays Development Corporation, and also worked on the online course development for Kansas Energy Works. But in her new position, we wanted to find out from Sabrina what the Management Development Center at Fort Hays State is all about. Let's go back a little bit first, Sabrina, to the Downtown Hays Development Corporation.
Okay.
Wonderful plaque on the wall here for 10 years of work.
Yes, that's true. And you know, it seems like just yesterday I was still doing Downtown Hays revitalization projects and working on some of those initiatives. It was a great project, great intro into the community of Hays, into the business community. Lots of networking and great resources that I met throughout that time frame, which have helped, of course, lead me into the position that I'm doing now. I'm still involved with the Downtown Hays Development Corporation in a couple of different capacities. I recently helped serve on the selection committee for hiring the new executive director, Sarah Bloom, which starts, I think she starts next week. So excited about that, and of course still try to remain as much of a viable resource as I can for downtown projects. So still near and dear to my heart, and I still try to stay involved with it and back helping with the barbecue contest again this year. That's part of the Downtown Hays Development Corporation. So a lot of history there, a lot of good resources, and excited to continue my relationships with a lot of those folks moving into this new capacity.
We want to meet that new director too in one of our future community connections. But over the last 10 years though, in the downtown development as it's occurred, there have been some progress, hasn't there?
There sure has. There's been quite a bit of progress, and I know one of the things I used to face when I was in that position or in that capacity was a lot of times when folks live it every day, they don't see the progress that others see who come to visit our community, and so it was always nice in that type of a capacity to hear comments from outsiders' perspective, and kind of kept you refreshed and kept moving towards working on some additional developments down there.
A great point, because sometimes we think, well, it's moving so slowly, not much is happening from the inside, but when you come into the situation, it looks a lot different.
Yeah, I used to always invite people that said it was moving so slow to come spend a day with me.
Yeah, talk about spending a day for sure. So again, a perfect transition into this new Management Development Center at Fort Hays State. Talk about it. You began your work June of last year.
I did. I actually came back to campus. Of course, I am an alumni. So my first I guess, step into the business world. I have to tell this story because I just love it. But I did a free internship with the local Chamber of Commerce here in town under the direction of Gina Riedel, who was the director at that time. And after that internship, she then offered me a position full-time as special projects coordinator. And she said, I said, okay, well, what am I going to be doing? And she said, well, we have a fundraiser planned for December. It's already set. We've got the prizes and some of the basic details worked out. So she's like, go forth and figure out the rest. So I said, okay, that's great. I like that. So
that was that Hawaiian luau, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was the Hawaiian luau. I think we sold 525 tickets and held it out at the fairgrounds here in town, and really had a great time with that. And so then from there, that moved into the downtown position. And part of that, I think, has helped me develop a portion of what we do at the MDC, which is we coordinated, starting in this summer when I took the position, the first ever grant-funded internship program through the College of Business and Entrepreneurship, where we took a couple of different grant funding sources, one being the Worth Family Trust, and then one being the Dane G. Hansen Foundation, and we combined some funds and established grant-funded internship programs. So we kicked that off in the fall semester, and then from there, we are just now getting started with the spring semester internships. And right now I have graduate teaching assistant who's helping in the capacity of setting up what the summer internship program and beyond is going to look like. So we've submitted a proposal for additional grant funding for that, and we're excited to see where that goes.
Well, you got to have those grants, don't you?
Oh, yes,
it
you
really
do.
helps.
They do, and I should mention that the only reason that I was able to come on board full-time for the MDC is because of an operating capacity grant from the Dame G. Hansen Foundation, or a gift from them. Before, in the MDC director position, it was always held as an additional role for a faculty member who was already teaching three-quarter time, if not full-time. And then, of course, they also have community service responsibilities on top of that, and research responsibilities as part of being faculty at Fort Hays. So it had just gotten to the point where they had built it up enough that it was becoming successful enough that it really required the attention of a full-time director. And so they approached the Hansen Foundation about the possibility of it and what it could do potentially to assist Northwest Kansas businesses. And the Hansen Board of Trustees liked the concept and asked them to go ahead and put together a formal proposal, and liked what they saw, so off Fort Hays went and got a full-time director. So that's what led to the ability, I guess, to have a full-time director. Timing-wise, it was set up that it was supposed to start in June, which they got accomplished, and here I am.
The internships are ways for the Fort Hays students to get involved, Sabrina.
That's right. The Management Development Center is really about helping develop people and their skill sets so that they can turn around and help their organizations be successful, or even more successful than what they currently are. And hopefully what that does is keep businesses in Northwest Kansas viable, so that we have good jobs, good quality jobs here, good quality businesses here. We've got services here for people to want to stay in Northwest Kansas. And so part of that overall component is, how do we find a way to keep students who are going to Fort Hays State University in Northwest Kansas after they graduate, instead of wanting to go off to the city.
The biggest challenge right there.
It is. Yeah. It is. And you know, I don't know that will ever change that complete mentality of students wanting to go off and experience city life or something of that nature for at least a couple of years anyway. However, I think the trend still seems to be that many of them who at least originate from this area or have a great experience in this area then tend to return at some point to maybe stay here. So the idea behind the grant-funded internship program was that we could match higher level students, juniors, seniors, and grad students who have had a lot of their basic coursework done and have delved into their business major of choice, and get them and pair them up with a business who needs specific help or expertise in marketing or financial or analytical skills, something of that nature. And so what we've done is tried to pair those students up with local businesses, and hopefully it's a win-win situation for both.
I think you've touched on something that's very appropriate. I think all of us have probably known young people who have gone, you know, after graduation to experience a different situation, different culture, different lifestyle, whatever the case may be. But then they come back, and if there are opportunities here, they can come back to stay and become a part of that community.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, Mike, that students shouldn't leave Western Kansas and go explore for a couple of years or something, because quite honestly, I do think there's valuable experience in that, and then they can bring those valuable experiences back to Western Kansas. The key is making sure, as you said, that there's opportunities that exist here, so when they are ready to come back and bring their wealth of knowledge with them, that we can find a way to utilize them. So, you know, with the internship program, what we've tried to do is hopefully create some good relationships for them with businesses already in the community, so that they can come back to them as resources, even if they don't come back and work directly for that business, as well as hopefully a good experience at Fort Hays, so they'll continue to think of coming back to Fort Hays, maybe in the capacity of serving on our advisory boards or donors to the Alumni Association and Foundation and those kinds of things. So.
Working with businesses, now are we talking about established businesses, new businesses, combinations? What's the model here?
It could be combinations. we primarily work with businesses that are already in existence. A lot of times if we have businesses who are emerging, we can look at the internship program, because part of the grant funding for the internship program is for emerging type businesses, so those that have been in existence for less than 3 years. But if they're looking to really just get started, a lot of times I refer them to the Small Business Development Center here at Fort Hays, because they already have that model in place. Excellent resource, and they can provide those services for them. So a lot of times what we end up working with are businesses that have been in existence already.
And what a great opportunity for those businesses, because after you've experienced it, after you've jumped in the pool, so to speak, you got a lot of questions, and this is a perfect place to get some answers.
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to think so anyway. So the role of what the Management Development Center is, if someone calls in an existing business and says, we'd like some help in doing a strategic plan for our nonprofit organization or our for-profit business. Can you help us? And I'll say, okay, well, let's talk a little bit about parameters and timeline and scope of project and what do you want your end result to be and those types of things. And then what I do is I try to reach out to the faculty here on Fort Hays who have experience in that particular area that the business is wanting help with. And then I simply try to merge them together. I thought this was funny. I went to a consulting skills certificate training program workshop shortly after I was hired and brought on. I think it was early July. And I was explaining to the facilitator what my role was, because everyone there was either already the consultant themselves, so they were doing all the work themselves, or they were an internal consultant for an agency that they already worked for. So, looking over their company's internal processes and figuring out better ways to do them and things. And he said, so what do you do, Sabrina? And I said, well, a little bit of both, and I explained how I work with the business and then go try to find a consultant to match up with the business and then facilitate that process and the contract and all those kinds of things. He said, so you're like the Match.com of the consulting world? And I sat there for a second, and of course everyone else in the class is chuckling, and I said, I think I'll start using that. That's what I do. Thank you for that marketing tip.
Perfect reference, absolutely.
Absolutely. So consulting is only one area that the MDC does. We do the public workshops on campus to assist businesses. Anyone's invited to attend those. They are open to the public. We do private on-site trainings for folks. Maybe they send a representative to the public workshop. They like it a lot, think it could help their particular business. And so we can customize it specifically for that business, take it to their location, and have several of their employees attend. We've done that a couple of times, and it is wonderful to see those employees interacting and coming up with solutions to problems in a day's time. So that's great. And then the consulting is the big third piece of that.
And part of this, developed by Sabrina William, Director of the Management Development Center at Fort Hays State. I didn't tell you I was going to do this. Your boss, Dr. Mark Bannister, Dean of the College of Business and Entrepreneurship, said, William's experience in an executive role and instructional development, her extensive economic development and regional business ties, and, he said, she has worked effectively in leading projects, organizing teams, managing organizational budgets, and working within the guidance of boards. Served as executive director and now the new director of the Management Development Center at Fort Hays State. Glowing tributes there from the boss.
I guess so. That's a mouthful.
Absolutely.
I guess I should say thank you to him.
Mark is never at a loss for words, Sabrina.
That's true. That's true.
Sabrina William, Director of the Management Development Center at Fort Hays State University, our community connection. Thanks for watching.